Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you for joining us here at Code It Live. Happy Thursday. All right, so I'm Sam Basu. I'm your host. You see me live code on these Thursdays and get some guests on, but thankfully I'm not coding today because I have a very, very special guest with me today, the wonderful Maddy Leger. How are you?
I'm good, Sam. It's nice to see you. Feel like I haven't seen you in forever, but
Good to see you. Absolutely. And yeah, it's a new year, and looks like chat room is starting to fill up. John Bachelor, yeah, good morning.
hello. Hey, John.
Yeah, so yeah, Maddy and us gonna go a long way. We love working with everyone on the Xamarin team. And so, Maddy, do you want to introduce yourself, like what you do?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm Maddy. I'm a program manager on the Xamarin team. So my focus is really on developer productivity. I look at like a lot of our tooling, like hot reload and hot restart, and make sure all those things are working nicely. But of course, with .NET 6 and .NET MAUI coming up, everyone's got a ton of crazy things going on. So I feel like I've been wearing like 8,000 hats lately.
I bet.
Yeah.
And it's so critical, like what you do. Like when you look at like the whole like mobile landscape, like this is something we care a lot, like productivity, like the quick dev loops, and you and David and everybody on the team. I mean, you have been focused on better tools, like essentially just more productivity for devs, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It is. It's really rewarding because there's a lot of like numerical improvements we can make. Like if you look at how many times someone hot reloads, like, and you just say, okay, well, that build would have taken 20 seconds every time they made that change. Like that's really, really helpful. But lately we've also just been having a lot of really nice, like anecdotal, like, hey, I onboarded a new developer and it's way easier. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. And these things like hot reload and everything else that's been worked on, like hot restart, this is so exciting. Like this really, really helps if you are building Xamarin apps, just to get those builds going so much quicker.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you're in Boston area, right?
I am. I'm in Boston. It's snowing.
Oh, it's snowing.
That's exciting. It snowed like a foot earlier in the month, and then it all melted the next day. So now we actually have snow that might stay for more than 24 hours, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'm in Northwest Pennsylvania, and for us, like when it snows, it normally stays for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Let me see if our connections are holding up. Maybe your camera is just freezing up a little bit, but hopefully that goes away. Yeah, Boston area, like New England, and the Patriots are in the Super Bowl for the umpteenth time.
Not the Patriots though, just my man.
No. I meant well, Bucks and the Patriots. Well, you got your man Tom. That's all that matters.
Yes, I did. I was like, I'm so glad the Patriots won yesterday, and then I was like, wait a second.
No, it's not the Patriots. Oh boy. Oh, and Maddy, I wanted to show you. Let me see if I can get out of the way. That, by the way, is my kitchen.
That's beautiful. I was going to say that's a great background.
So for folks who might not know the story here, so I think it was last year, Build or .NET Conf.
It was Build, yeah. It was the spring.
Okay.
It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I remember because my background was not very nice. So
well, we don't know what you mean by nice. So the backstory is Maddy showed up for a keynote, and she had an impeccable kitchen, right? And for most of us, like kitchen looks like a war zone, and everyone thought that was virtual, but turned out that was actually her kitchen. So for the next like a couple of weeks, like folks were using your kitchen as a virtual backdrop.
Yep. Funny. I'm trying to find the link right now. Someone posted it on Wallpaper Hub. Yeah, I found it. Yeah, that was probably my proudest moment. So
yeah. Oh yeah, looks like that Maddy here posted a link to that right there. So that's her kitchen. Okay, if you are looking for a virtual background for your Zoom or Teams calls, that's right. Yeah. Ancient Coder, hello. Good to see you. Good to see everyone here. All right, so we have you on here clearly to talk about Xamarin, and I gotta complain a little bit here first with how we act as a community. Sometimes we are all too eager to get on the bleeding edge, right? So everyone is talking about .NET 6 and .NET MAUI, But the reality is, like, we are still building apps, and the tools that we have right now matter really. So I know, like, you and the team and David and James, everyone has poured in a lot of love into Xamarin.Forms 5.0, which I think went live like at the start of the year, a couple of weeks back, right?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
All right. So that's what we want to talk about, right? The reality that is pretty good at this point. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's start.
I
Let's
think I have
pull up
David's
your
blog up. So
desktop here. There we go.
sweet. Yeah, clearly
Right,
I wrote this blog. Ignore that it says David now.
We love David.no. But folks, yeah, that's the blog that went live with Xamarin.Forms 5.0. It was January 7th, and yeah, lots of cool stuff to go into. So let's dive in.
Yeah, awesome. Xamarin.Forms 5 was a sneaky, like, loaded release. And I think it definitely got lost in the hype of Maui and everything with .NET Conf. So at .NET Conf, we actually kind of made a pact to focus on Xamarin.Forms 5 for the most part. So a lot of the sessions there kind of have the early preview stuff of Xamarin.Forms 5. But this blog that Dave wrote is awesome, and it covers a lot of the kind of the main things that I'm excited about. So app themes, brushes, carousel views, and stable. We've been talking about carousel views since like Xamarin.Forms 4.6. I think I talked about it at Ignite 2019. And it's stable. Radio button, shapes and paths, my favorite, and then swipe view. So I have a sample app that I'll click through later, but assuming it runs. Of course, we have our amazing contributors. So add a profile picture on GitHub if you want your picture. Otherwise, it's just going to be these little bots, but the bots are cute too. Some familiar faces and such here that I've seen in the chat. So very exciting.
Let me make it a goal to get up on that board next release, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we've been putting them in the release notes too. We just have like a list of like everything, which has been really nice.
And this is an aspect that I think there's something to be proud about here. So Xamarin.Forms is entirely open source, and you take in like a lot of pull requests. Like how many do you think like is per release on average?
My goodness.
Or I mean, it's all true, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the like actual number because I have no idea, but I do know this time last year, the number of pull requests had gone up like 2.5x year over year, and it's gotten more up this year. We just haven't done the stats yet. So it's amazing, especially like UWP support. We have a great community kind of doing all the shell stuff. So many bug fixes and just like little tweaks, adding like a custom control or custom property on existing controls. Like those things just are amazing. Yeah. It's been great. But yeah, this, like I said, this is a sneaky big release. And so I work on tooling. So of course, like my spin on everything is how much better like your experience will be in Visual Studio. But it was a big SDK release first and foremost. We have all these things in the Xamarin Community Toolkit. Oh my goodness, I should have had that blog pulled up. So we are taking things that are pretty much good enough to be in Xamarin.Forms, but like could use a few more, a little bit more love, or might be like really specialized controls. And we're putting them in something called the Xamarin Community Toolkit, if you haven't heard of it. So that's these things here. C# UI markup extensions is now in the Community Toolkit, which is fantastic. Those are so good. Expander, which if you saw, that's the one that like if you like click on a shopping list and it expands out all the little icons, very pretty. Media element, of course. It's amazing. But it keeps the Xamarin.Forms SDK with more
just
like
cleaner.
everyday, everyday controls. Oh, also, we did rename master detail to flyout, which is such a little thing, but it's like possibly one of my favorite things. Because everyone was always like, what's a master detail page? And I was like, it's like when you have a little hamburger menu and it flies out. And then someone was like, oh, a flyout? And I was like, oh.
See, not everyone is as old as like some of us are.
Right.
So, like we come from like the desktop backgrounds. We know what master detail is, but the modern and the cool kids maybe don't call it that.
Right. Exactly. And then you say hamburger menu and people are like, oh God. So, yep. But there were, oh my goodness, there were so many cool little things in 5.0. And then so this picture right here, this is of Jenny. And he works on the XAML experience team at Microsoft. And so he is not on the Xamarin team. Why did he contribute to Xamarin.Forms 5? Good question. Xamarin.Forms 5 is the release that enables the all-new hot reloading. So it's called hot reload changes only, but I've been calling it like offhand hot reload 2.0, even though it's not really a 2.0.
Yeah, I mean it's a big rewrite for what it was before, right?
It is, yeah. So it's actually a really cool story, and feel free to cut me off if this is going to start boring people to sleep.
No, please.
When we created hot reload last 2 summers ago, the team was like, "It's time, we're doing it." And we looked at the live reload experiment. And we were like, okay, we don't want to use ports because that's going to be a pain with, if you're on like a corporate network and then a personal network and everything. Okay, it needs to be over debugging, blah, blah, blah. So we start building it. And the XAML experience team, who sits like adjacent to the Xamarin tooling team, they were like, hey, we have like XAML hot reload for Windows, right? And we were like, yeah, but that's like for Windows. It's not going to work with like devices and stuff. And they're like, yeah, you're probably right. So we shipped the hot reload preview, and people were like, hey, like sometimes it's kind of slow. Sometimes it reloads my whole page. I would like it to handle this, 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 and this, and this. And we were like, oh man, like we missed a few things here. So we like go back to our friends on the XAML experience team. We're like, hey guys, you seem to have solved all these problems. Help? And they were like, yeah, we'll just rewrite your whole implementation of XAML hot reload to run on our stack. And we were like, oh boy. So as with all good dev projects, we were like, this will take a release. And it took a year. So it was, in hindsight, it was a good thing we shipped kind of our way of doing it first, so that you had this like already pretty solid hot reload experience for the past year and a half, really. But over the past, since I guess October in 2019, we have been working with the XAML experience team to take their implementation, decouple it from the UWP debugger, allow it to swap in the mono debugger, allow it to run on mobile, allow it to handle Xamarin.Forms controls, like all this stuff. And of course, we have things that are like different for us. We have CSS, we have Shell. They don't have no paradigm for on Windows and all that stuff. So of course, and this is Peter Spada too. I just noticed he's also on the XAML experience team. So of course, like these things have to get somewhat built into the SDK as well to send the right source info back. Stefan Delcroix on the Xamarin team is kind of like the person that has handled all the tooling stuff for us on the first party side. But this is the first release where we've seen a lot of contributions from engineers elsewhere in Microsoft, in the XAML proper tooling team, contributing back to Xamarin.Forms so that we can use their same tool. And that it's so good.
It is really good. And this is what happens like when you have engineering that is already good in other parts of the stack. And I love like folks like Dimitri Lylin or Oleg Gavrish, like we were sharing the love, like whatever we are doing right with the desktop, like we're bringing it over and doing kind of sharing the love with Xamarin as well. So
Dimitri's actually a Xamarin PM now too.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah, which is exciting because that means I get to bother him all the time. And he's my favorite. And he's also working on C# hot reload, cough.
Yes.
So very exciting.
Very, very exciting. And maybe if like folks who don't do Xamarin don't realize like the challenges that we have here, like what we are moving and shifting. Like this is not the web. Like there's no like webpack type thing that everything is a component. This is difficult because everything is being pre-compiled down. So there's a lot of heavy lifting being done.
There really is, yeah. And with mobile, it's we talk a lot with the Blazor team, especially with the whole .NET 6 thing, and they're like, "Yeah, just refresh the browser." And I'm like, "We don't have you know how long it takes to build and package an Android app, man? It's way too much." So it's been fun, kind of like comparing and contrasting these paradigms across all the teams and explaining our unique challenges, while also, of course, trying to make sure we have somewhat similar solutions for our customers. Like we don't want Blazor hot reload to feel so absurdly different than Xamarin hot reload, but it has to make sense for the platform. So,
and chat rooms, Zerker, we are big Xamarin fans here, as you can tell. Me and Maddy.
Oof, Xamarin.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So let's see what else is in this blog. I think my Android emulator might be alive now. I was telling Sam before we went live. So Microsoft, of course, we have to have all of our devices managed. And I have been using my desktop, my like home desktop that I built for all of the pandemic. But a couple months ago, to like actually even just check email and stuff, you needed to manage it. So The other day, I like sucked it up. I installed a whole new hard drive, like a separate hard drive that I Intuned, that I put all my stuff on. But now every time I open Visual Studio and I'm like, oh, time to do a demo, I'm like, uh-oh, like, did I install, like, I was like, oh no, I don't have like the, like Android API 29 on this right now. That's not good. So, yeah, let me just double check that this hot reload is actually working before I talk about how great it is. And then I want to show it to you folks. And I can poke through some of the Xamarin.Forms 5 features while we're at it. Is it working? Are you going to work?
And while you're pulling that up, ancient coder, you're right. Like it's a very web developer thing to say. But again, like we'll talk about Xamarin.Forms 5 today. But I mean, you have heard Maddy and David and everybody else talk about like what's next with like .NET 6, and Maddy mentioned like Blazor. Like things are just kind of like coming together. It's all intertwined now. If you look at like things like Blazor mobile bindings, that is sitting right on top of Xamarin.Forms. And it's rendering everything within like a lightweight web view. So at that point, you may not have a refresh button, but you have an option of rendering everything on the web stack or canvas if you want. So times are interesting.
Yeah, the Blazor web view is awesome because we hear all the time Blazor developers say, hey, we want this to run on the desktop or a mobile phone. And Xamarin developers say, hey, we want this to run on the web. So we have this like contradiction, and then it's like, well, just go build a web app. And they're like, well, no, I'm a client developer. I don't want to build a web apps. And it's like, oh, so .NET is really looking at kind of like Blazor as the web tech and Xamarin as the client tech, and we want to make them as interoperable as possible. So that's exactly what you're talking about with Blazor mobile bindings, and the Blazor web view is the first real step of this, that a Blazor developer can do a file new MAUI app and do nothing but open a Blazor web view tag, stick their Blazor app in there, and call it a day.
Yeah, kind of right.
Yep. And so hopefully we have the same for Xamarin down the line too. That's the dream. Okay. My app is like building, it says, but I want to show you how to turn on hot reload, and then we can debug this together, of course, as it takes its time. Oh, it is working. Sweet. Let's see. Okay. Tools options on Windows. On Mac, it's a little bit different, but similar. Look at the docs, aka.ms/XAML hot reload.
Yeah, I mean, it's still tools.
Yeah. I think it's Visual Studio preferences, and then you like poke around in there. So we moved all the hot reload settings to debugging hot reload. So this is 16.9 that I'm running this internal preview here. It's virtually the same as the public preview right now. So you can try this today, or at least what I'm going to show you. And we moved all the window settings, and this is part of that combining the stack story. We moved all the window settings and the Xamarin settings together. So you have the WPF and UWP, plain old ones, which used to just be tucked in debugging general, which is the biggest nightmare of a menu I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like down here somewhere, and I could never find it. And there's so many words. And I was like, no. So we moved it here. What you want to do is you want to switch it to changes only, which is still in preview. So you do need Xamarin.Forms 5. Oh, I did okay. Let me make sure. My Solution Explorer that I do have Xamarin.Forms 5. Yeah, I have a pre-release, but it will suffice. And then when you build and run your app, and then I'll shrink this a little bit. Come on, there we go. Oh, Visual Studio. I don't have my demo flow down yet on this machine, but it's okay. At least my font size is carried over because they're all massive. I can just change anything. And with the old hot reload, you had to hit save. And with this one, I'm just going to change it. And hopefully it's actually going to update, or it's not. That's okay if it doesn't. It's probably broken. But this is all Xamarin. This app was literally built for Xamarin 5 features to show those off. So this is a carousel view. These are all the plants I have in my house. Obviously, it's the same picture because I was too lazy to do pictures. Massive fonts with the lousy eyes. Me. This is my aloe vera plant that was so famously put in that build background that Sam mentioned. But the picture is just used all over the place. So this is a carousel view, and it's so nice. I love it. I don't have an indicator on, but the indicator view is just like a separate thing that you add. I think I might have it in my code further down somewhere. Yeah. So like I can uncomment this and just add an indicator view. It just says if I'm on this one, use the darkest green on the dot, use my regular green on the non-selected dots. And then these circles and this sun here, I'm actually drawing with the Shapes and Paths API.
Interesting.
So yeah, so these 3 dots are literally, they're just ellipse that I filled. And I set the stack layout that I wanted them to be in. Like I put that stack layout in the grid of this page where I wanted it, or in the grid of this card. But I drew 3 circles. So of course I can change like the width and height because it's an ellipse. So I can make it more oval. But that's pretty simple. And then the sun, I Googled sun SVG. And then I hit right click. Oh, my Google is trying to help me out. I'm sorry. And then I hit right click inspect source because that's all an SVG file is. It is code. And I copy pasted it and I made the letters in it capital because it's lowercase d data and lowercase f fill. And I capitalized it. And then I copy pasted it in here and it showed up. I was like,
there you go.
Sweet. And that's this little sun right down here. So I scaled it 0.04 so I can make this massive. I'm not sure why Hot Reload is not paying attention to me right now. So
all right, it's Thursday for Hot Reload as well. Yeah, it looks like Maddy, you triggered a few smart assistants all around because we can't say Alexa, we can't say Google on calls clearly. I wish they would just let us call it like Jarvis.
I know. I like have so many things. Also, this is my rant of the century. My Googles do not listen to me when I need them to. I have to talk in like the lowest, slowest voice because I'm like, I guess I'm too shrill for Google. Like obviously, quintessential woman in tech problems.
Oh, just whisper to me.
Yeah, so I'll be like yelling, like I'll put pasta in, and then I'll be like, set a timer for 8 minutes. Set a timer for 8 minutes. And then like my fiance will walk in and be like, hey, set a timer for 8 minutes, and it just works. And I'm like, this is the worst.
Oh, this is funny.
I want to like it or something.
So let me ask you a question here. So when we do this hot reload on changes only, but behind the scenes, what is being done? Like you're scanning for anything in the visual tree that is changing, literally. Like you're scanning for XAML changes, right?
Yep. Let me actually pull up the visual tree too. That's a great reminder. Oh, that's interesting. That's why Hot Reload's not working. I must have it like turned off somewhere. We can debug this while we talk. So the live visual tree is what shows you like what your app is made of, which is very cool. And applies now, Android and iOS. Let's update my NuGets. Oh, that's a new icon. So the live visual tree shows you everything. Oh, Alexa is Voldemort.
That's funny.
That's smart. That is really smart. I like that. And so behind the scenes, the XAML IntelliSense engine, which is kind of what tells you like, hey, update, like autocomplete this when I start typing like stack. It knows to autocomplete stack layout, all that stuff. That is what's sending the changes to kind of this brain somewhere. That's the Hot Reload process. And I'm totally butchering this. I hope nobody on the team is listening. They're going to lose it. And so that thing says, hey, I made a change. And right now it's over the debugger. So it just takes that change and spits it over the debugger and says, hey, take that XAML, give it back to me. I'm going to spit out this new XAML for you. And it just re-renders the element that changed. So if you put text in a text box and then you make a hot reload, it will keep the text in the text box for you, which is awesome. So we're going to try this and see if this is in the mood to turn on today. This is the new Git experience. It's very nice, except it keeps bothering me because I haven't typed in my password because I'm too lazy to open Authy and get my authentication code. Whatever. So the live visual tree on the side is just telling you like what your UI is made up of. And then you can see when you like swap out an element, it's just going to replace that in a live visual tree, no problem, which is part of the reason you don't have to say it either, because we are just kind of analyzing your XAML on the fly. And then if your XAML is invalid, it just gives it a squiggly and doesn't even try. It's like, we're going to wait for you to type something that makes sense here.
So would we kind of get similar to what like the XAML folks have? I think Ollie had showed me one time for WPF, like the error handling. Like if there is, excuse me, if there is an error in your XAML, like how does it handle that?
Yeah. So if there's an error in your XAML, it'll give you a squiggle. We also have the data binding diagnostics.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was referring to. Yeah.
Yeah. So that you can where is it? XAML binding failures right here. If I have a binding issue, I don't know if this will work because it depends on if hot reload's waking up or not. And I start scrolling. Yeah, that's it. It knows. It knows that my binding path is broken. Yeah.
Very nice.
That might mean that hot reload woke back up now that I updated things. Hold on. Go status resource darkest green. Okay, so that's no longer an ombre. Let me shrink this again. This is supposed to be a nice gradient Xamarin.Forms 5 feature. Dark green. Don't hit save. Yes. Love it. Love it. Work. Nice. That's it. And so I'll like swipe around this carousel view, my beautiful carousel view. I'll be on this specific plant, the Dieffenbachia, also known as a dumb cane, because if you eat the leaves, they make your mouth numb. Fun fact.
Interesting.
And I'll change my title here. I'll just start typing plants. Nice. And I'm still on the same place in the carousel view. Like this is super important. An actual use case for something like this would be your text is too long in a certain carousel view. So you want to like screw around the stack layout to make sure it fits. And if you have to keep scrolling back to the single issue item every time, it's a pain. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. No, and I'm all too aware of some of the engineering challenges that you literally run up against doing things like this. Like we make tools for Telerik for Xamarin.Forms. And I was also talking to James Clancy the other day, and he obviously is much more invested in the MVU stack with dotNET MAUI, and he was talking about how difficult it is to kind of scan through the visual tree and look for those changes and only broadcast that out.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is not easy.
No, it is very difficult, and we're lucky that the XAML team has so much collaboration and love for us. And that's this time plus a few months last year. So probably fall 2019 is when we had the new XAML IntelliSense editor on Mac. So I don't know if you remember that XAML on Mac was like a home rolled IntelliSense that was sufficient, but it was not great. And they actually worked on basically ripping out all the Windows dependencies of everything so that they could put the IntelliSense editor on Mac, that engine and those brains. And that's the same thing they did here. I mean, they had to rip out a bunch of Windowsy stuff here to make it run on Mac as well. So the live visual tree is still coming to Mac. It's on its way.
Yeah, and I'm so glad because I'm on a Mac, so I'm very excited every time you do something for Mac.
Yeah, people are always like, why isn't Mac the same as Windows all the time? Because it's literally like a whole different stack.
It is.
Yeah, like the options for us are wait to ship until both of them are done, or send the early version to the Windows people, let them find all the issues with it. So that when we do put it on Mac, like it's mostly battle tested.
Yeah.
Really, it's a benefit for Mac developers, I would say.
Chat room. Hey, Salt and Burnham, Ping Pong. Good to see you. Good
Hello.
To see you.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever day it is. So this is that live visual tree. I mean, this is a shell app. Works well. That was a big part of the Xamarin.Forms 5 release, was making shell and hot reload play nicely. I got my tab. I got these cute little icons. My frame. I love it. My carousel view, blah, blah, blah. All these things. And on the other page of this app, my plants page, I haven't added my swipe views yet. Good. We can look at it's probably in a different branch. I wonder what happens if I change a branch while hot reloading. I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I can pretty quickly just add a swipe view. Swipe view. Nope. Swipe view. It's morning for me. Don't judge my typing. And then
and
swipe view. And then
I was gonna say, like, we're all in like East Coast time, so it's 10:30. It's early morning.
We had a customer call this morning with some folks who I guess like part of their team is in India. So which awesome. I mean, so cool. I love talking to customers, especially lately a lot of our customer calls have been about like what's going on with Maui, which has been great. But sometimes I'm like trying to form a sentence and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm saying right now. Like I'm too tired. I'm going to copy paste from the docs. So we'll see how this works. I know left items. There we go. Okay. I know I have to get rid of this PNG,
So
but
while you're doing this, let me maybe phrase a question here. So behind the scenes, like there is something that's always scanning, right? So like, do you know if the engineering team has done like any performance things where like is Visual Studio taking a hit because we are non-stop like looking for the binding failures or scanning your visual tree?
Good question.
I'm sure they have.
Oh yeah, no, so Visual Studio, as you know, is like the most massive conglomerate of all the things in the world. So we have like on our own side, we have performance tests and benchmarks and blah, 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 that are important. And then Visual Studio will come and yell at us if we screw anything up. So they'll be like, hey, we just noticed that this one specific Xamarin thing is causing issues. So this is actually more performant than the old hot reload.
Nice.
Because the old hot reload, you'd hit save, and then the IDE would have to take a second, bundle it, shove it over. And now it's not only faster, but faster for the actual reload, but also faster in the IDE because it's optimized to pick up those incremental changes. So you can see I just copy pasted in some broken code. Nothing showed up. I deleted swipe items because apparently I don't need to have that tag. Now it showed up. So I can swipe that swipe view no problemo with my hot reload. And of course, this is a custom font. So that is a shared resource.
Oh, wait, are we doing stuff already in Xamarin.Forms 5 with the stuff that we are planning ahead?
A little bit. Bits and pieces.
Nice.
So this is kind of like the step one of shared fonts. So you can put it in a shared resources folder and then you register it in assembly info. And that's where I get my alias, basically. But what we want for Maui is you don't have to do this anymore. You just, in the properties for your resource file, you just put alias, whatever the alias is going to be. And that will stick it in your CS proj, and then you'll just know.
Nice.
We had a really good meeting yesterday about how we're going to want to do the images. Because, of course, you can do embedded images now in the shared project, but that's not great. So if anyone's familiar with Resizetizer, John Dick's package that like scales your PNGs and SVGs and everything for you, the plan has been to just build that into Xamarin.Forms. And we're actually getting to the point where, like in .NET MAUI, you'll be able to put a PNG here, and it'll just do the right thing.
That would be very nice. Because, again, like... wait, am I hearing my own echo? Maybe not. But we are just so used to just putting these things in platform-specific projects everywhere and just repeating it multiple times. So anything you folks can do that helps really.
Yeah, I mean that's literally why I don't have other images in here. It's because I was too lazy to make the sizes and like put them in all the projects and stuff. I was just like, it's too much work.
Yeah. And John Batchelor, Prism, I don't know if this may actually be a question for our good friends Dan Siegel and Brian Lagunas. And I have Dan on many a times, so maybe we can ask him about where they are with shell support.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I haven't heard anything about it. I know it's something. We love Prism. We love Dan and Brian. They're great. So maybe we'll check up with them and see if we can help them out at all. Speaking of folks, and of course, Progress and Telerik, that's one of our faves. We don't play favorites, but we are trying to figure out any good demo apps to launch when we launch Maui. So if anyone has any ideas, or apps that they want to work on upgrading with us for your clients or for your company or whatever, we're taking note.
Point noted.
Yeah.
No, we love Xamarin too. We have a big Xamarin team, and we actually just wrapped up like our first release of the year, and the team just pours in love over like three months or so. And then we have like 3 major releases and like service packs, but it takes a lot of time engineering sometimes to pull off those little things, right? So we have been working on this for a while, but like dark mode support, okay? It sounds very simple, but when you think about all the pixels we draw, some of them with Skia, some of them with native renderers, and we have like multiple themes you can switch around. That's a ton of work. So engineering finally gave us the blessing, and we can support dark mode all through.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think part of Xamarin.Forms 5 is app themes, and part of app themes is dark and light mode. So it's a little bit easier, but of course, when you're building your custom controls, like you said, like Skia is a whole other ball game. But of course, the controls are beautiful and very helpful. And every time I need a chart, I do not try to do that myself.
It's a good community. I mean, this is what Xamarin.Forms bring to the table. Passionate developers, and we are all in this together. And competition is good. We are trying to help each other out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I remember when we first did like the first hot reload, we pulled down all like the control vendor sample apps. And we were like, let's see if this is gonna work. And it like mostly worked.
Yeah. So speaking of Dan Siegel, I remember like this was in Houston, maybe a couple of years back, and you were there, and you were trying to pull down our app and just kind of see how hot reload works. But yeah, we have come a long way from there.
We really have. I know. Yeah, that's when we announced it, the Xamarin Developer Summit.
Right.
Oh my goodness, that was like the best moment of my life. Everybody was so excited. I was like, I want to be the one to talk about hot reload because people are going to be so hyped. We had kept it a good secret until then. But yeah, I don't know. What else is Xamarin.Forms 5 in here? Let's go back to this homepage. I talked about my gradients. I talked about my shapes. Talked about my carousel view. I think this indicator view code like might work, but who knows? Control KU, uncomment XAML, if you don't know that. I learned that myself.
Or let me see. Control Command / for Mac.
Yeah, I don't even try with Mac. Yeah, I must have done something wrong with the indicator view because it's not popping up. But you saw the card bump up a second there, so it's trying. I'm trying. But yeah, it's a stacked release. Oh my goodness! And one of David's tips that he's been sharing, David Ortnow's tips about upgrading to MAUI, has been to get rid of as many custom renderers as you can, because that's really the only thing that's going to break. You'll have to update your CS proj a little bit. We're going to make that as easy as possible. We don't want it to be difficult. But if you want to take advantage of the new, more performant renderers and the kind of MVVM removed from the architecture of the render style architecture, custom renderers are going to be where you have to put in a little bit of work. And so Xamarin.Forms 5, I would say, gets many folks will get rid of custom renderers due to features in Xamarin.Forms 5. So, which is great. I mean, like the amount of times we've seen people do like custom carousel views and custom indicators, drawing those images as custom renderers, all that stuff. You can just pull them all out. That's it. And then that's going to get you most of the way to migrating to MAUI. So, which is nothing's going to break. It's just we're going to .NET 6. It's a project file bump. It is Xamarin.Forms v next. Xamarin is not dying. It is control.
I mean, we're going to have to keep on repeating these things over and over. And we get asked a lot, like, what's going on with MAUI and our support? And it's just, okay, nothing is burning. This is the evolution. Whatever we are doing right now with Xamarin, like, you're going to be fine. And I think, like, David and you are just, like, tired of saying it. Nothing is being taken away from you. Yeah. It's just, we're opening the funnel. Just more choices for players, right?
The behind-the-scenes story that I'll share on streams, but never in a talk. Like, is that in
well,
Dan, hello.
Speaking of
he showed up. He saw that Prism was mentioned, and Dan was like,
yeah. So Dan, I don't know if you want to weigh in the chat room. John Batcher was asking about Prism support, which I know is going to hurt here, and I don't know exactly where you are with the shell support. I know you and Brian have been looking at it, so yeah, feel free to chime in chat. But are we flying to MAUI anytime soon, Maddy?
Oh, I wish. That's the dream. I'm also trying to get some monkeys with the Hawaiian shirts or the but the .NET branding team is like, what are you doing? Like, But in the last time I was in Seattle, actually, was the last week of February 2020, and we had a PM all hands. And this is when James Montemagno and David and James Clancy and like all the minds got together. And we're like, this is this Maui thing we're doing. We're shipping it in .NET 5. It's going to be awesome. And we were so hyped. And we were like, this is going to be like the biggest deal ever. We're going to announce it at Build. It's going to be ready to roll by November. Things are great. And of course, so I fly home from Seattle that week. 7 days later, I'm supposed to fly back to Seattle for MVP Summit. I'm supposed to go out the week early. At 10 a.m. on a Sunday, work emails us and says, do not get on a plane. We're not sure if we're going to allow travel for the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Huh?
Due to,
I remember.
Due to what we so have lovingly come to live with, COVID-19. But throughout the next 2 months, we were like, we're going to make Maui work. We're going to make it happen. .NET 5. That was the original plan. And of course, people had to adjust to working from home with kids. And we had to shift resources. I mean, there was such an emphasis internally on making sure that tools like LiveShare and code spaces were up to par, because there were these preview things that people were now relying on. I mean, when you have a new employee in this situation and you can't sit at the desk and code with them, I mean, LiveShare saved people's butts. But of course, that meant shifting resources. So we recorded the build, most of the build content a week or two before build, actually. And a week or two before that, we said, I guess Maui is going to be in .NET 6, not .NET 5. Like, that's how quickly this happened. And we record all the build content. But what we didn't plan for was that the 6 months between May and November, we were prepared to answer the questions. Nothing's breaking. It's not going to break. It's going to be fine. And then by the time November rolled around, everyone would realize that. And everyone was going to have the bits in their hands, and it was going to be great. And people could just try it and then be like, oh, nothing's breaking. Everything's fine. But then we added a year to that timeline, and we haven't had bits because we got completely, the priorities changed and everything. So we've had to answer that question, which is basically like, is Xamarin dying? Is all my stuff going to break? Way more than we thought we were going to.
Yeah.
So
and we do that as well, like on customer calls with that we have who are using Xamarin and our UI, and it's just explanations. And to Dan's point, once Maui cooks a little bit more, we can all play around with previews, and like you were saying, Maddy, like our migration efforts from regular to Maui. And Shell looks like whenever you get around to it. And this is the thing you said about like restructuring and shuffling around work. Like maybe this is lost on folks who do not work a lot with engineering, right? So some of our job roles, like our whole team was remote, and we are just so used to this. But when you talk about literally sitting down and engineering collaboration, that stuff is hard. To pull this off. It's been just a big pivot for everybody.
It really has. Yeah. And I used to joke like we oh hey Javier, welcome to the chat. I don't know how long you've been here. Nice to see you.
There you go.
Javier is great. Every freaking PR that has to do with like UI, pretty UI stuff in Xamarin is like, I'd say 90% of the time it's Javier. It's so good. So before pandemic, before Xamarin was already a really remote team, but as we've worked more and more with the .NET team, a lot of those people sit in Redmond or Seattle, and sit 10 feet from each other or one team room over, or whatever it is. So we would join meetings and all the Xamarin people would be remote, and then everyone would be in the conference room in Redmond, and then the camera would be like bad quality or too far from the mouth, and nobody would be able to see the screen, and it was always such a disaster. And the Xamarin people were always like, oh my God, can you guys learn how to have like remote video calls? Like, this is ridiculous. And so the pandemic started in the Xamarin, and everyone was like, Xamarin, please help. Like, can you help us with the, oh my gosh, how do you do Teams? Like all these things. So we got to kind of, flex a little bit on folks. And now I think when we go back, if and when most of us go back, I think it'll be, pretty easy for us to adjust to that mixed remote hybrid thing.
Everyone's learned the lessons. And then you also bring up a good point. Like when you and David and James and everybody on the team pushes for MAUI and all the things you want. Like this is .NET now we're talking about. It's not just us. Like there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Yep. I shared with a customer yesterday that because we've been doing, like I mentioned, and you mentioned the same thing, lots of customer calls that are like, what does MAUI mean for us? This time last year, most of the Xamarin planning meetings were the Xamarin PM team. Like it was me and James Montemagno, who now runs .NET community all up. So he's just like, don't screw things up, Xamarin, Maddy and Dave, and Jake and Dimitri. He's like, keep it good. And we're like, okay, James. But it was really like, it was him, it was James Clancy, it was David, it was me, it was Pierce Bogan at the time, who's moved on to the Power Platform and all this stuff. And we'd just be sitting in meetings and be like, so what do we want Xamarin to look like? I guess we'll do this. Oh, customers are saying this. Let's do that. And now every time we come into a Xamarin or MAUI planning meeting, it's not just that group and the PMs who have joined since. So Dimitri and Jake Kirsch, who interned with us last year and is now our full-time PM. He's working on the whole single project experience. It's Rich Lander and Damian Edwards and all these like really cool .NET people who I used to be terrified of that I'm now talking to all the time. And they are really invested in Xamarin and Xamarin planning. Dan, I miss Pierce too. Oh my goodness. Pierce Bogan is also the mastermind behind the original Hot Reload plans that I then kind of swooped into. So, and
we're on stream, we're among friends here. So I'm going to pull up something Dan said, which may be negative, and then Dan can be blunt, like he's saying.
Dan blunt? No.
No. How can Dan be blunt? No, but the reality is this is like enabling developers to have a starting point. So like folks like Dan and me, we will likely never use the shell because like we're just so comfortable doing things our way. But again, we just need to realize that it's not meant for everyone. It's a choice whether they want to use it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard actually on a call that I was on before this, a customer was like, shell's great, but I can't pass objects. So why on earth would I use it? And I was like, yeah, good question. It has a ways. I mean, I think there are like, we kind of have been splitting shell requests into two categories, like things we want to do, like defining more than top level navigation is definitely a thing we want to do. And then, you know, adding objects and stuff, and then things that we would like to do, but who knows if we'll get around to them. Like those are where the suggestions fall. But Sam, you're absolutely right. It really is, you know, what we can get done. And then if new customers are liking it or newer or more, not simple, that's not the right word, more like entry level Xamarin developers, like if it's useful for them, that's great. But it has to be a lot more than that for our power users, like a Sam or a Dan Siegel or a John Batchelor or whoever to use it. So, and I know it seems like your audio is duplicating. I hope it's not me. So
I'm trying to fix it. I think it's like not the AirPods causing it because I have a big microphone in front of me, but it looks like it's gone now. I had to just turn the echo cancellation on and off again, maybe.
Yeah. Classic. Yeah. It sounds great on StreamYard. So I don't.
Who knows? Technology fails us at times. Yeah.
Oh, I love it if shell. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. I'm so glad you said this because my first idea when we were talking about shell was we should just make a storyboard designer, but for shell. Who needs code? And everyone was like, that's way too much. We don't need that. And I was like, that'd be so cool. And I'm still fighting for it. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon because we have bigger fish to fry. But Dan, I'm glad we're on the same page because I totally agree.
All right, so let's go back to David's post here. Like you talked about a lot on the tooling front, but you have a whole bunch of new UI things to play around with in Xamarin.Forms 5. That's all the brushes and the drag and drop. That's all pretty good. I actually not played with the indicator view, so I'll take a look at that. I hadn't done that. Yeah, and shapes and paths, like these things are kind of in our ballpark, and these things are hard. So I mean, it's always the thing. Like you see what the community is doing, and some of it, like when you feel the need, like it needs to be part of the tool set, and everybody else is also happy with it. So
right, yeah, I can't imagine like drawing a Telerik control with my shapes and paths, but it's really helpful when I need like a circle, a angled line, things like that.
Like and you need to know your math, because like some of those things are just pure math on how you draw.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like this this sun here, like I said earlier in the stream, for any of you who missed it, like I Googled sun SVG, hit inspect source, and copy pasted it into Visual Studio. Like so much easier than adding an image. One thing this demo doesn't have is drag and drop. Oh my goodness. Drag and drop is so good, which we initially came up with the drag and drop idea. I think this is David's GitHub for it. Yeah. Oh, good read me, Dave. I hope you're watching. Sucker. No, just kidding. We originally came up with drag and drop because people wanted to take things from one side of the Duo app for the Surface Duo to the other side of the Duo app. You have both screens. But people were like, no, I want drag and drop in my actual app. And we're like a single screen app, you want drag and drop? And people were like, yeah. And we were like, oh. So that is actually, I think, part of what the sample app is. It's like the bottom half, you can drag things on the top half.
Now, does that work on like every container like layout thing, or does it have specifics that it likes to work on?
That's a good question. I think it works on every container.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's look at these beautiful docs. Yeah. Yep. It's just another gesture recognizer.
That's good.
Pretty good. So, LOL. I know. Me looking at the docs, or Dan.
I at least give you props for like, are you in dark mode all the time in your browser, like when you're actually just using a computer? Because like I'm mixed bag.
Yeah. Oh,
that's interesting.
I constantly am Googling things about Xamarin. I can't even tell you how many times like Telerik blogs, Dan Siegel's like older blog posts, like people's blog posts have saved my butt so many times. Dave all the time. James Montemagno's website, all those things. I need them. But this is my clean browser. This is like Windows, if you have two monitors, you can make it so that this only shows the tabs that are open on the window. So like if you looked at my main monitor right now, which is what Sam and StreamYard is on, it's like got like 8,000 things on the taskbar. But it looks so clean over here. Yes, Dan, start blogging again so I can put you on the community stand-up. First Thursday of every month. Live.dotNET.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so yeah, that's quite a whirlwind tour of all the things. And when was the last like major release before 5? Was it 4.8 something?
4.8, which I believe was time doesn't feel real last year, but probably like late October, early November.
Okay.
And 5 we're going to continue to service and kind of do version bumps on until we ship 6/Maui.
Sure.
If you want to know when a Maui preview is coming, keep your eyes peeled.
Actually, speaking of that, hang on. Let me see if I can copy paste. Because like, how many times have we mentioned David?
Oh, a zillion. He's everywhere.
And my echo looks like it's back again. That's not good. Hang on 1 second.
Let me mute too.
Is this better? Check. How do you check? Okay. There's actually a conference going on right now, which I need to go and check like when things are happening. But I am speaking, and yeah, we have mentioned Blazor a couple of times. Like we'll talk about Blazor for mobile and desktop. And I think Dave is on at the very end of it. I think later today. So I'm sure like you are hearing Maddy and Dave and everybody else on the Xamarin team just talk about Maui over and over again. It's coming. Just like let's pace ourselves. This is good. It's just let's take the time to appreciate what we have is good, and then we'll move on to the future together.
I did not realize you were doing the Blazor mobile talk. That's very exciting. Everyone's gonna watch that. What time is that at, Sam?
I don't know. Probably half an hour from now. I'll go check, but I think it's not. It's like noon Eastern, so I got an hour.
Where's the agenda?
Maybe they're already live. You know, like Fritz was on earlier. Maybe they took down the schedule. They're live on Twitch as well. So I think that's
cool. Yeah, 12:05 Eastern.
So I got an hour,
so.
And then I think Dave is on last. It's fun when you kind of cross these barriers. Like I mean, we kind of started off with that whole Electron world with Blazor, and now you have the Blazor shell and the view, and to see the differences and how it might work out. So yeah, fun times.
I'm glad I wore, I have my dotNET scrunchie. I've been talking about these a lot. dotNET store, so good. The dotNET Foundation store, but they made scrunchies. So I'm glad that I have this today so I can wear it during this dotNET.
Wait, do you have a URL?
Oh, I do. Hold on. Let me Google it real quick. dotNET Foundation store. If you look in, I think, like, fun, there are Xamarin monkeys. So just so you know.
Oh yeah, and single project, it's coming. It's coming.
It is coming. Oh my goodness, single project we've been talking about so much lately. Dan, we are planning an update to MVPs internally so that you guys kind of get to give us your feedback. But I think we'll probably do a community stand-up or something with a single project updates and such.
I think that's already listed, like it's coming up soon. So
yeah. We'll figure it out. So
yeah. That's the dotNET Foundation. Yeah.
This is the dotNET Foundation store, and then the scrunchies, I think, are in accessories with also blue light glasses. And then in fun, and there's the monkeys, and then there's stickers. There's the, let's see if I have them. These are the best. The C# Superman stickers.
Oh yeah.
I love these.
Every time we deal with like .NET branding, I can see like Beth Massey coming down, like, get your branding right.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, that's why I'm like, oh, let me just like put a Hawaiian shirt on a Xamarin monkey. And Beth's like, there is a brand that exists. Please do not screw up our brand. And I'm like, you're right. I'm sorry. So
yeah, I get shouted at as well, but it's all good.
Nope, Dan, I wear them all the time. I took them off for this because it's like snowing out, so I imagine the glare is probably from the white light is gonna be terrible but yes, these are them. Yeah. These are actually the Ava Lovelace edition of the Felix Gray blue light blocking glasses. I don't know if they actually work. They might. Anyways,
all right, well, yeah, Maddy, I know you're super busy, so thank you for coming out and hanging out with your friends here. You might since you folks are so much of the face of what Xamarin stands, so forgive us for shouting at you sometimes, but we love you. We are all trying to make things better for developers, and I think everyone just wants Xamarin developers to be successful and productive, and that's what we are all striving for. So thank you for what you do and what the entire engineering team does behind you. And everybody else here. Dan, perhaps it's time for us to get back and talk about Prism a little bit more. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for calling me awesome, even though I had sound echoes all through. But yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. So what day is it? It's Thursday. So I don't think we have any more stuff today on this channel, but tomorrow we are actually doing a full day stream for all the things we did for our release, and that's going to include like an hour and a half of Xamarin and WinUI goodness, WPF as well. So lot of fun stuff. So we appreciate you coming out and hanging out here with us. More than Prism, sure. So that's it, I suppose, from us. So Maddy, any parting thoughts? Like, what are you looking forward to the most in the next 6 months? Except for flying, which
except for flying, right? Oh my gosh, so much. I don't know. I'm just excited to start having tangible things for Maui to show people and to play with and everything. I'm really excited. I think it's an awesome opportunity for Xamarin. And like you said, I love when you shout at me, even though if I'm cranky about it. Like, the fact that people care enough to be upset or angry or happy about anything that we ship makes me so happy. So continue to shout at us forever. Dan, great emojis. But yeah, I'm excited to see.
I wish I could have them flying around, but I'm not on OBS today, as you can tell. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Maddy. We appreciate, we love you, and hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. Be productive, be happy. And,
thank you. You too. Enjoy .NET front end.
Exactly.
I'll be watching.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, folks. That's it from us, and we'll see you on the next stream.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.